8.
Today's date is July 19th, 1996. This is Duke Curran at the home of 1625 Midland, Quincy, Illinois. Barb and Duke live.
Boy, he's good.
Boy, I'm good.
Okay, Dad, tell us your name at birth.
Theodore Stanley Garner.
Are you sure?
Positive.
What was your mother's name?
Florida
Mary Florida?
Meyer. I don't know what her name was. Never thought about that. Her name was Mary Florida Garner.
When and where were you? When and where were you born?
When?
Yeah.
July 23rd, 1921.
And your mother?
When was she born?
Mm-hmm. Where was she born?
She was born in Quincy.
Do you know her birthday?
May 2nd.
May 2nd,
Mm-hmm.
1899.
And her nickname was?
And who?
Her nickname was?
Nana.
Mm-hmm. And your
Not
father?
at that time.
And your father's name?
I don't remember his first name. He was a Garner.
He's a goner.
And you had a stepfather, didn't you?
Later on.
And when did he become your stepfather? How old were you?
5 years old.
Do you have any memory of your dad? Your real dad,
My real
Garner?
dad, no.
Did you live with him for a little while?
No, I never met him, but I recall.
But did he and your mother live together? They didn't raise you together for a while?
No.
No.
You had no siblings, right?
No siblings.
And how about your grandparents on your mom's side?
Edward and Susan Meyer.
M-E-Y-E-R, right?
And did you know any of your relatives from your dad's side? Garners?
Yes. Oh,
from Garners?
No, I mean my real father, no.
How about, what was your stepfather's name?
Edward Curran.
And when was he born, roughly? Do you know what year he was born?
I would guess around the turn of the century. That's about it.
And how long did your mother live?
Live? She lived to be 84 years old. Like
1983. And how about, is it Ed Curran?
Ed? Lost track of Ed.
When did you lose track of Ed, roughly?
About 1954.
Did you want to do this? Am I getting in your way? How about your mother's siblings?
She had one brother, Emmett.
And when was he born, roughly? Was he older or younger than Nana?
1900.
And how long did he live?
He lived to about 1949.
And how did he die?
Heart attack.
What did he do for a living?
He was the police detective.
What did your grandfather do for a living?
Did Emmett live in Quincy?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Grandpa had been a machinist before he retired.
Did they stay in Quincy, your grandfather?
Yeah, lived at 700 Jersey.
Do you know where they were born? Nana's mom and dad?
They would have been born in Quincy.
In Quincy, too?
Yeah, Grandpa's mother's maiden name was Mast, Barbara Mast.
What memories do you have of Nana's grandparents? Are they the ones that... I mean, Nana's parents, your grandparents.
Yeah, I lived with them for a long time, so I knew them real well.
When you were in elementary school?
High school.
And they the ones that had the swap shop or the used...
Second-hand shop.
Uh-huh.
Where was that?
700 Jersey.
In Quincy?
Yeah.
Then how about Nana's grandparents? Did you know them?
I met my grandmother on my my grandmother's mother, and she died in 1926.
Yeah,
I was there the night she died. Her name was Ellie Buckman Drake. D-R-A-K-E.
Then where did Nana live?
700 Jersey. Grandma died. Grandpa and Grandma and Emmett all died 1 year right after the other.
Is that right?
Starting in 1948, 1949. Grandpa died in 1950.
Where were you during those years?
I was in college and teaching in St. Louis. In Kansas City.
So you went to high school in Quincy and grade school in Quincy, or did you live in St. Louis a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I was graduated from grade school in St. Rose School in St. Louis on Hodemont and Plymouth Street.
How many years were you in St. Louis?
Probably 2 or 3. 2 or 3 years.
Did you live anywhere else other than that area of St. Louis and then Quincy when you were growing up?
Lived in California before that.
How long did you live there?
Till 1933.
When did you move there?
Probably on and off. Probably when I was 5 and 6. Came back here for 7, and then probably was out there till 1933.
Where in California?
Westwood and Los Angeles and Alhambra.
Well, tell us again, so when you were real little, the first few years you lived in Quincy.
I don't know where I was.
Oh, you don't know where you were. And then you went when you were 5 and 6?
Yeah, as I recall, yeah.
You were in Quincy, as far as you know.
I must have been in California, because that's when Nana met Ed.
Oh, out in California.
Mm-hmm.
But he was from St. Louis, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So then they got married, and then did you all live in California for a little
33.
while? 33, so you were
The Depression
12.
came along. Huh?
So you were 12,
Yeah.
and then you moved age 12 with Ed and Nana to Quincy? You would have been like...
for a year, and then we moved to St. Louis.
The 3 of you moved to St. Louis?
Yeah. And then I was in St. Louis until about 1938 or something, 37.
You were 16. So you were in high school then?
Yeah.
And then you came back to Quincy and finished high school in Quincy?
Yeah, last 2 years.
And then you lived at 700 Jersey at that time?
No, I was living with Emmett at that time on South 100 blocks South 8th Street. It was an old fire station, way back. Emmett had bought it. He owned a tavern across the street called the Wishbone, and Grandma and Grandpa lived at 700 Jersey.
7th Jersey. So then when you graduated from high school, you were still living with Emmett?
Yes.
Then where did you go?
Went away to college.
Where'd you go to high school in St. Louis?
Soldan.
Soldan?
Where'd you go to high school in Quincy?
What years?
No,
was
where? What schools?
First year I went to Catholic high school. I think it was called Quincy College, or Quincy Academy. And then I went to St. Louis for a semester or so, and then came back here. And was actually here for the spring track, and then 2 years. So I was here 2.5 years in high school.
Was it called Quincy Senior
Quincy
High?
College Quincy
Academy?
High School the last 2.5 years.
And it was there that you set some track records?
Yeah.
At Quincy High School? What was the track record? Do you remember the track records?
Yeah, it was a 100-yard dash. I ran a 9.9 100-yard dash.
And how long did that record stay in effect?
Still stands.
It still stands?
Yeah.
The 9.9?
The 9, yeah. It was during one of the the season's track meets. Yeah, it still stands.
How about football? Did you set any records there?
Yeah, 2 years of football.
What records did you set in football?
Number of touchdowns. And,
Do you remember the number?
I just remember the points. That totaled up 168
7.
points or something like that.
In one season?
Yeah.
Was that your junior or senior season?
That would be my senior season.
What position did you play?
Halfback, left halfback.
Do you remember how many yards you averaged per carry, roughly? It was over 10. I read a newspaper article. Then you went to college?
Yeah.
Where?
Iowa.
What year did you graduate from Quincy High School?
41.
And then, did you go directly to college?
Yes.
Did you, at that time, did you have some sort of scholarship to go to
Yeah.
University of Iowa?
Mhm.
Why did you choose that college?
You can take the fifth on this day.
Financially, they offered me an inducement. I mean, paid my tuition and books and a lot of other things. And I was there about a year and a half, then the war came along. And so then I went into the Air Corps for 3.5 years.
Was it the Navy?
Navy Air Corps.
Navy Air Corps. And you played on the Seahawks for the Navy, right?
Mhm. They had a sort of a professional and semi-professional high school or college players. I just played maybe a half dozen games.
Is that all?
Played some over at Illinois Wesleyan, as a student over there with the Navy program.
So you were an officer in the Navy, so you had to go to officers training.
Well, yeah, it took several years of training to get your wings, as they called it.
And where did you do that training?
Illinois Wesleyan, Murray, Kentucky, over in Iowa, can't remember the town in Iowa, and Corpus Christi, Florida.
And that was all to get your wings, so
Yeah.
you could be a pilot.
Right. Yeah, I was in a night fighter squadron, and they sent me to,
Vero Beach?
well, I did, but it was Melbourne first, Melbourne, and then Vero Beach.
Florida.
Yeah.
And where'd you meet Mom?
I met her when I was at Illinois Wesleyan.
Is that in Bloomington?
Yeah.
Well, how did you meet her? Do you remember?
I think she had a date with my best friend,
Who was your best friend?
Larry O'Brien.
How'd you know Larry?
He was in the squadron.
Was he from Bloomington?
No, he was from Louisville, Kentucky.
So what was your first impression of Mom? Do you remember?
I can't put it in words.
Did you ask her out shortly after that?
Yeah.
With Larry's consent?
Well, yeah, I told him I was going to ask her out. I met her in Walgreens in Bloomington downtown. A bunch of us were, out for the weekend.
Were you in uniform?
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't have a commission at that time. I was just in training.
So were
They called
you?
it a V5 program where they sent you back to college to learn how to fly, to learn navigation,
Did you like flying?
yeah,
So you were looking forward to getting your wings?
yeah.
Did many of your friends get injured or killed in the training?
Larry got killed, and quite a few men got killed. There were so many of us that Larry got killed. He was in San Diego, going to be shipped out, and he took off in a dive bomber to get in his flight time. If you flew several hours, you got additional pay and everything. And he crashed, and the seat wasn't anchored good to the plane, and he got killed.
That must have been a sad.
There was a boy named Bob Tierney. There was a boy named Bob Campbell. There was a boy named Bill Girding got killed trying to fly on my tail, trying to pretend like he was shooting me down with his cameras. When I went down into the steep dive to get him off. Yeah!
Telephone!
Thank you. And when I pulled up steep, you black out. The blood, is pulled past your eyes. It's a strange thing. And when I straightened up, 1,000 or 2 feet up above it, he wasn't anywhere around. And they finally put planes out looking for him and found him. He'd pulled the tail of his plane off when he tried to follow me. His name was Bill Girding. He'd been out in the fleet and had come back to get this night fighter training, and of course got killed.
So,
Doc Caldwell was another man that got killed. All those fellows were in our squadron, and they all got killed.
so many got killed before they ever went to the
Yeah.
war.
Well, there were so many planes in the air. You'd look up in the sky over Florida, and sometimes you'd see 50 planes, flying, squadrons all over. And they were trying to get a lot of people into the fleet at that time because the Japanese were giving everybody a fit.
What year and month did you meet Mom?
Well, it must have been July of 1943.
What was it like when you first heard about Pearl Harbor?
I can't even remember. I was in college. No, I wasn't in college. I was in high school. It was December 7th, 1941, wasn't it? And I continued to go to college, and the draft board here told me that they were going to draft me and suggest I join something. So I joined the Navy. I first went to St. Louis to get in the Army Air Corps, and when I got down there, they said they couldn't give me the test that day, the exam. So, I walked around the corner to the Navy, and the strange thing about it is the people running the test were from Quincy, and the officer in charge was a quarterback from Iowa, who I knew.
Huh.
So I took the test and got in. Then it took about 3 months before they could find a place for me. They had to find a spot for you. They sent me to Murray, Kentucky, which is really a new example of going into the South, after being up north all the time.
And that was for officers, the beginning of your officers training.
Yeah, it was a V5 program. First of all, down there they wanted you to be, to get in shape, feeling that the average guy wasn't in shape. And of course, I was in shape. So you horsed around there for a couple of months getting in so-called shape. And we had a real crazy officer down there. He'd been an Olympic hurdler, I think. And he used to poison the dogs down there, and you'd see these dogs stumbling around the campus, It was really nutty. I also got held over there for a couple of weeks for stealing ice cream, they said. So, and I was the commander of the whole base as a pilot. As a student, because of my football, and I used to, they call it a battalion, and I'd call these people out and tell them to stand at attention and stuff. So anyway, I got away from there and went to Bloomington, and it was approaching the football season, and they asked me if I'd play football. And several of the guys that went with us, me from Murray, guys from St. Louis, they played, little ball, so we had a football team. And I just never ran around one end. The people on that side of the thing didn't know what they were doing, so we'd always run around the other end.
So were all your games in Bloomington?
About 3 or I can't remember, say 3 games, and we always, won good.
Did you,
And then Iowa pre-flight was a big base with a full captain in charge, catching like hand, and they called me and a lot of people who'd play ball professionally and otherwise to come there and put on a show team, So we went there and they had Don Farrow from Missouri as the head coach, Bud Wilkinson as the assistant coach, all really top men. And I played several games of ball, with them there.
who did you play?
Mostly high school, mostly college and some service teams like Great Lakes had a bunch of guys that were pros. I've got a book back there. I got at the sale, the last garage, and in that is a lot of these people. Pictures of them, who they were, and some of them were Bears players, some of them were Detroit had players, all kinds of guys.
Did you guys play Army?
No.
How about Notre Dame?
Yeah, we played Notre Dame. They beat us 13-14 and considered that the national championship. I don't know why. But Farrow would tell us, he'd say, when you kick off the ball this time, let the other team make a touchdown. First I thought they were kidding me, but they weren't. So we would kick the ball to these high college teams, and they were kind of mediocre. And everybody would kind of move over slowly and let this guy kind of run down the field and score.
Why would they do that?
Wanted the game to look good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but the strange thing about it is that general lackadaisical attitude backfired on them because they beat us. Notre Dame, bunch of young kids, 18, 19 years old, beat it. And several of the pros were hurt. They weren't in real great shape. They were used to just sort of playing theatrical football. But those were interesting times.
So then, let's see, you were in Kentucky, and then you were in Iowa, and you were in Bloomington, and then you were sent to Florida at the end?
Yeah, there was one Iowa base where I learned how to fly bigger planes, and then I went to Texas.
What kind of planes were you flying?
Well, you mean it was a trainer, retractable, 2-seated plane, like 225 horse or something like that. In Florida, we were flying night fighter. No, that wasn't true. In parts of Florida, we were flying night fighters because we had our commission, and we started to get these night fighter F-6F, which were those planes were in the fleet, and so we started to fly them. That was what this fellow Bill Girding got killed in. That's an F-6F. The wings folded up so they could put them on carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were out in the Atlantic doing landings on aircraft carriers, and the captain at one time said he thought we were pretty close to the worst bunch he'd ever seen, because some of the guys crashed. Every time you crash on a carrier, they just push it off the side, I didn't have any trouble, but some of the guys did. When they'd come in, sometimes your tail hook was dropped down, and they had these wires across there about 6 inches off the ground, and your hook was supposed to catch it. And if a hook started to jump, it could jump every one of those things, And that's what happened to one or two guys, and then they'd have this barrier, which was like 2 or 3 big cables that would snap up and catch the plane, up high, catch it so it wouldn't crash into the tower. And this guy caught one of those things and just went out there, and then the prop turned him over, you know, and crashed. But he wasn't hurt.
So his plane didn't go in the water?
They pushed it in the water later.
Mm.
And what they had a catwalk, they had a deck that you landed on, and over here was a low place where men stood, you know. And
Okay, Pat's batteries ran out after a while, so we're picking this up to continue. Present are Ann, Loie, Pat Curran. We're all visiting for Dad's 75th birthday and just trying to get some stuff on tape. So where we left off, Dad, I don't know, what were they talking about?
Well, Dad was talking about getting his wings and the tail end of all that training, and then after that, Dad, and that was in Corpus Christi, Texas, and you got your wings, and then you married Mom, and then you moved to Florida, and Mike was born either in Vero Beach or Melbourne.
yeah, was he born in 45 or
45.
Yeah,
45. And then after Mike was born, you were discharged from the Navy. Hello.
Went back to Bloomington. Hello, hello, hello.
Better turn it off, I think.
Good to see you, Susan.
We'll
Hi,
take
Ann.
Ask anything?
Well,
We gotta kind of follow
Ann's
up.
doing it in chronological order.
Yeah, I know
And
where.
we can go back and fill in. Pat.
Okay.
Pat knows.
Dad, I wanted to ask you before we get started. Are we started up?
We're started.
Dad, we left off with,
You gotta speak up, too.
Dad, we left off with you in finishing up your service training to fly in Corpus Christi. Then you, in 43, was it 43 you went to Florida with Mom?
No, it's 43 I went into the service.
Okay. In 44, roughly when in 44 did you get married? Oh, you got married in November. Did you get married in November?
November 1943. 44.
44?
Michael was born in 45.
And then you moved to Melbourne and to Vero Beach, Florida. And then
Michael was born in Vero Beach. No, Fort Pierce, Florida.
Were you in the delivery room?
They wouldn't let me in the hospital.
You couldn't even go in the building?
No.
Where'd you wait?
Officers Club.
Went back home that day, and the baby was born the next day, I guess.
So how long were you in the service total?
About 3.5 years.
And then where was Jim, the second child, born?
Jim was born in Bloomington. I was in college. Hitchhiked home back to Bloomington to see him. Jim looked like an Indian
You hitchhiked back from where?
from Iowa University.
I mean, you heard about the birth, then went back?
Yeah.
Oh.
How come you and Mom were in different cities when Jim was born?
Well, she was expecting a baby, and it wasn't a great time for her to make a move.
Okay. And you moved to Iowa City, University of Iowa, to finish up school.
Yeah.
Before we go on from there, I wanted to ask you, what do you remember?
I don't know, she just started crying.
What do you remember
I wonder
about
if she's hungry.
what's in the
I'm sorry.
That's Henley Curran. She's 5.5 months old.
What do you remember about any stories that you heard about your Uncle Emmett or your grandfather and grandmother before you were born? Yeah, maybe about what they, I don't know, anything about them. What were they like?
Well, Emmett had been a policeman. Had been a fireman for Lawrence, for the first few years of his working life. And then he, probably around 1936 or so, he got on the police force, Quincy Police Force, and became a detective after a couple of years.
Were you close to him?
Yeah, I lived with him for a year maybe.
How much older was Emmett than you?
21 years old.
And how about
Hiya, Rick.
Go ahead, hi.
I told him we're doing, you can come in, that's all right.
If
We'll turn
Kevin's
it off.
shooting, it couldn't be any good.
Yeah, we'll turn it off for a minute.
what was
Yeah,
your
we'll get you,
your
we'll get you
grandfather's
introduced.
name?
Get me involved in this, I want to be involved.
Yeah, Rick, will you produce this for us real quick?
This history of Quince, yeah, I want to be involved.
Edward was tall. He was 6'2", about 225 pounds.
And was his wife? What was her name?
Her real name was Susan. Everybody called her Fanny.
And
Fanny.
what do you remember about them? You told us they had a store and some things that they did for a living.
Grandma had 4 sisters and a brother. And the family was very close. They used to visit each other, play cards, have family reunions. Grandpa's mother was Barbara Mast, and she lived catty corner from where Grandpa and Grandma lived on Jersey Street.
7th in Jersey?
Yeah, and her Grandpa's aunt I knew real well. Of course, she was my great aunt. Her name was Elizabeth.
What was her last name?
Kurz. And she was a sister to Grandpa's mother.
How do you spell Kurz?
Kurz. Ricky, you look so good.
I agree, thank you, thank you.
Oh,
Good job,
Well,
Rick.
we had a relative family. Wasn't really an aunt. Maybe she was your aunt by marriage, Aunt Ellen.
Aunt Ellen was Emmett's wife. She was my real aunt.
And Emmett
Well,
was.
she was
My
Nana's
mother's-
brother's wife.
Yeah. She was Emmett's wife, and of course, Emmett was my mother's brother.
And so he died pretty young, you said. He died
Very
like
young.
age 50 or something
Very
like
young.
that.
He was about 49 years old when he died.
How did he die?
Had a heart attack.
Then Aunt Ellen and Emmett, did they have any children?
No children.
So then she married Wayne Six,
She did.
and they had a number of children, didn't they?
Well,
Sally.
previous marriages.
Oh, previous marriage for him?
Yeah.
So Aunt Ellen never had any children?
No,
Well, how about Nana's other siblings besides
there
Emmett?
were none.
Emmett was her only sibling.
I was the last of that whole clan.
Did you spend some time living with Aunt Ellen?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you live with her?
Probably my senior year in high school.
Did you live with John Anderson, his mom Ruth, for a while?
One time, Aunt Ellen and Emmett decided I'd be better if I didn't live with them. And so in the summer, I went and lived with John.
This was all in high school.
Yeah. They lived at 633 and a 3rd Main, and I lived with them that summer.
Tell us, Dad, why did you keep moving from house to house at that age?
Well, I can't remember what the reason. Well, Emmett probably wanted me to live with him during football season. And the other thing, I kept going back to St. Louis. I'd move back to St. Louis, and then I'd move back to Quincy, and they'd decide who I was going to live with. And Nana was moving back and forth. She was having trouble with her husband, Ed Curran,
Drinking troubles?
drinking trouble.
Do you remember much of that?
Well, I remember taking Ed and putting him on a streetcar and taking him to, where they dry you out, and had to clip him once or twice to get him to stay on the streetcar.
What does clipping mean?
I mean, hit you in the mouth.
Because he kept wanting to get off the streetcar?
He kept carrying on as though I were kidnapping him. So I dragged him off the streetcar and put him in a cab and took him in and had him admitted.
That must have been dramatic.
Well, at the time it was just a normal
How old were you?
activity. I don't know,
16, 17?
Oh, no, I was, I really can't remember.
After high school?
I think it was after the service.
Oh,
So you were 23 or 24?
Yeah, but I really can't remember
it was,
that.
it was after, before you got
I don't
married.
remember whether it was the second time I had done that to him or not.
So with Emmett, you lived with him, but and he was married
Probably
to
on
Ann
and
Ellen.
off a couple of years.
But all that time he was married to Ann Ellen.
Oh yeah, they got married quite young. He had bought this building, and it used to be a fire station. I've got a picture of him when he was a fireman in that building. And then he bought a tavern across the street called the Wishbone. And then he borrowed some money from Grandpa and bought farms and houses and different stuff.
Did Emmett and Nana get along well?
Real good.
So did it turn out to be a good decision for him to buy the property?
Excellent. Well, it was really good for me. He died.
How was that good for you?
Well, I eventually inherited some of that.
When did you inherit that? You mean right after he died?
No.
What year?
Well, he bought it probably in 1940 or something like that. And it was 1980 something that
It was after Ellen
Oh,
died.
Ellen got it.
Yeah,
I
she
see.
left me the farm.
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, who were your good friends in high school?
Well, John Anderson was one of my best friends. Don Wavering was one of my best friends.
Where'd
Peter,
you,
don't shake
how
this
did you
chair.
meet John? How far back does your friendship go with John?
High school. He was out for track, and he was the drum major, during the halftime for the football. He was just a good friend.
So you guys lived with each other for a summer?
Yeah,
What was the apartment like? Was it
it was fine.
nice, big?
Third story, third floor apartment.
Two bedrooms and a bath?
I don't remember.
Right downtown Quincy.
What were your hobbies besides football and track and other sports?
That's about it.
You
Did
ran
you
a
work?
parlor, didn't you, Dad? Well,
That was in college.
oh,
I'm pretending like we're back
High school.
before the high school.
What did you work in high school?
In the summer, I worked stacking straw for the paper company down here, Quincy Paper Company,
What street was that company on?
First Street. One time, I went to Chicago for part of the summer and lived with my great uncle Matt, Uncle Matt Drake. Uncle Matt Dettel. Yeah, Uncle Matt Dettel. And I worked on my stepfather got me a job with like an estate, taking care of property, big estate.
What was the Depression like for you?
I didn't know it was here, really. Grandma had a good business in the, what do you call it?
Her used furniture store?
Yeah, she sold clothes and furniture and everything. Because times were so bad, her business was real good. I mean, everybody needed older clothes or older furniture, and she would buy a whole house full of furniture or 2 rooms or whatever it was, and then bring it back there and sell it. She had 2 fellows working for her at different times. One guy was named Old Bill, and he stood in the middle of the street a lot of times and would measure off steps, how many steps it was from the middle of the street to the curb.
Why?
I don't know. And she would let him have a place to sleep, where the furniture was. And then she had a guy who was a German expert at fixing furniture and stuff. I just remember what he looked like. I don't remember his name. But she was always helping someone.
Was she able to give you like spending money? And
Yeah, she was my big source of spending money.
so what would you do? Go to a movie? Or
I really liked 10-cent movies, Cowboys.
where? Was that down at Washington Theater?
No, there were other theaters in that area, Star and Orpheum, and
Downtown?
yeah,
how much was a movie?
10 cents.
And so you
In
go,
California, I went to the movies for a nickel. Walked maybe 2 miles, and it was, and Nana would give me a penny for candy.
would that get you much candy?
Enough, yeah. You know, coming home from the movies, we'd pass these polo grounds where they were playing polo. And when a man would break a mallet, I'd ask him for the old thing. And then I'd cut it off and I'd play polo with no horse. I'd just run and hit the thing.
And that was in California.
And we had a group of guys that played polo on foot, yeah.
Dad, did you ever wish you had other brothers and sisters?
Always had a lot of, there was 2 people that I played a lot with. One was Hubert Childress, and the other was Tommy Noriego. Tommy's mother married a Mexican, a rich Mexican man, and we lived in Union Avenue in Los Angeles, and we spent much of our time fighting with other neighborhood people, you know. We'd take garbage lids for our shields, and we'd throw mud balls and stuff. And then Tommy would go over and make friends with the fellows we were fighting and then get their stuff and bring it to us.
And that was all in California.
Now he's a politician?
I don't know what Tommy is. They went to Mexico, you know, and I lost track.
You told me one time that Nana used to correct you in Spanish. What's some of the things she would say to you in Spanish?
Cállate. She usually would say mala muchacha, which is a bad boy, and cállate, you know, cielo puerta, ondale, you know, things that all mothers speak to people.
Now, why weren't you living with Nana? Was it because she was having marriage problems?
She was on the stage doing Spanish dancing and stuff. And I'd stay with this family, Henry Guito and Manuela.
Where was she doing her dancing, performing? Was she doing her performing in St. Louis or California?
No, she'd be in California. I remember seeing her on stage one time. I probably was, 4 years old or something.
Was she,
She was very attractive girl. And she married a couple of times, like a friend of mine that we know. And she married a man, and I think he was a Jewish man. And then she married
what was his name? Do you have any recollection?
No.
You mean after your father? She married a Jewish man?
Yeah. I think she was married 4 times.
Was Ed Curran her last husband that you know of?
Yeah.
Turn this fan off. I'm afraid this might bother the microphone.
Yeah, Nana was oftentimes back here working the Wishbone Tavern and serve meals to people. And, she'd move back here
All right, it'll go off if you...
away from Ed to St. Louis.
Yeah.
Then when did she get that house
Don't worry
she
about
had for so long?
She bought that in 1950. Ellen had paid back to Nana the money that Emmett had borrowed from Grandpa. And they bought that house.
Together?
Well, I don't remember. I think mostly it was just her. He put it in her name.
So she's went pretty much alone and then filled up the rooms and had it be a boarding house right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Now, when Nana was dancing in California, did you see her every day, or did you not see her for a week, or?
I don't know. It's too far back.
But that's when you lived with some Mexican...
I would say, if I were guessing, I was probably with Manuela and Henry Guito, half of the week or something, and maybe, and I don't know, even if Mother had a permanent place to live at that time, or what it was, I don't know. And there was a lot of relatives out there. Grandpa had relatives named Long, and can't remember the others people, but we'd visit them. People in those days went to your home and played cards with you, you know, was just a form of visiting. And I remember all those relatives. And then I had an Aunt George, who was really named Aunt Catherine, who was the youngest child in my grandmother's family, you know, her sisters.
The masked. They were masked girls?
No, they were from the Drake side of the family. And she was out there, and her husband was Fred, or Uncle Frank Light, L-E-I-D-T. And she had, what do they call them? And you go to beauty shops. She probably had 3 or 4 beauty shops and just managed them.
And Dad, tell us about the different jobs you had since you were married and on.
Well, the parlor. Tell us about the parlor one.
Parlor?
Yeah, the betting parlor you used to.
Oh, yeah.
How old were you when you did that?
It was probably 1946 or 7, probably. I decided I was short of funds, and I decided that I would start this parlor. Well, Grandpa had a brother's family in Chicago, up by up by Sally, in a place called, where is that? It's the what do they call it? The zoo. There's a zoo up there.
Brookridge?
Brookridge?
Brookfield.
There's
None of those places. And
Sally, where's the zoo in Chicago?
there's Sally.
Hi.
I forgot you were here.
Sally's
And,
here. Sally and Rick just got here a few minutes ago
So
with Lawrence.
In the west central counties or anywhere?
one of the boys up there in a place called the Panda Club got odds from bookies. So I talked to, his name was George Meyer. He was my second cousin. And I suggested to George he send me the odds for the preceding, you know, that week's football. Well, around the country they had, you could pick certain teams. If you pick 3 teams, and I'd give them 5 to 1. If they won, you know, like if one of their teams won, I'd give them 5 to 1 for their dollar. And then I'd give 100 to 1 if they could pick 10 teams, you know. And so I was making $400 or $500 a week that way for the season. You know, got on our feet a little bit. And then...
Was that legal?
No.
Did Mom like it?
She liked the money. So then I did that for 2 years. You know, it was really nice. And then another boy opened a parley, and he was giving like, instead of giving 5 to 1, or no, I gave 3 to 1, I guess. And he was giving like 5 to 1. So if you work for him and you bet against him, you had an awful good chance of winning, you know. And sure enough, a bookie in Chicago, I think, put $100 or something on it and beat him. And then they sent somebody down, we call him a torpedo, but he sent a guy down to collect. And I heard about it, so I got one of our big tackles, and we went and had a talk with the guy. And all he wanted was his money, and he'd get out of town, so I paid him off and he left.
Was he going to try to harm somebody if he didn't get his money?
He would if he had to. So they had a grand jury who called me before them to testify about this guy, you know. And I stood on constitutional immunity and just kept saying, I'm sorry, I can't answer on the grounds it might incriminate me. I hired a lawyer to tell me to do that. And the lawyer didn't have any arms. And this lawyer's wife was contacting me up until about 2 years ago.
Who was that?
Harold, what was Harold's name?
Vestermark.
Yeah, Harold Vestermark. And so anyway, I got out of the business at that time. I started to
Mom, up from the Olympics.
do carpenter work for people. Oh, and I worked as a carpenter building barns one summer. That's how I got interested in carpentry. And
When you were married.
yeah, and when we had probably 3 or 4 children. And John, and then I found that there were a lot of people up there who didn't have any storm doors or screen doors. So I found a source for doors, and I would cut the panels out of the middle of the door and put screen on it, and hang it, and me trying to make enough money to pay for everything.
Was that in the summers
Yeah,
when you were going to school?
yeah.
So you went back to
I
University
went
of
to
Iowa?
school summer and winter.
How many years did you go to University of Iowa after?
Well, I got a master's degree in 1950, along with John Anderson. He got his master's degree.
So you went back and went in 45, 46?
Yeah, 46.
What did you intend to do with your master's degree? Teach biology? Or
I really didn't know.
You got a master's in biology?
Yeah, science, they call it a master's in science. Thought I'd teach and coach.
What was your undergrad degree in? Did you have undergrad
Yeah, I
degrees?
had a degree in art.
And then didn't you left 1950?
The reason I stayed there and took all those courses, I had the parlay, I was going, I was making good money doing other things, and just staying in school to get the GI Bill.
Did you get play football after the service there?
Yeah, 2 years.
Were you ever involved in betting on games you played in?
No.
Did you get drafted from the professional leagues out of college?
Yeah. There was a team in Los Angeles called the Los Angeles Dons. They wanted me to come and play with them, but your mother was expecting one of the children, and it seemed ridiculous for me to go out and play football.
I think she was expecting Tommy, wasn't she?
I think so.
How much
In your
did
5th?
I would say that's probably right.
How much did they offer you to play professional football?
Oh, I think it was around 10,000 or something like that.
And that wasn't bad money then.
Not at that time, no.
so then you were a carpenter and you did the screen doors.
Yeah,
For a while.
I worked for this guy. I actually learned something when I started working for this carpenter. His name was Truman Schrader. And he was really a nice guy, an old-time carpenter. He'd build the trusses, with little pieces. He's just a fantastic guy.
Let's take a break. I've got to change batteries.
Okay.
We're talking about carpentry work. I just finished with Schrader the carpenter.
I'm sure that I did real well at baseball.
Okay, well the last thing we talked about was you just got back into carpentry work, and let's continue from there if you
Where
want.
was Schrader again?
Schrader was at Iowa.
So-
Yeah, actually, I then was graduated. I can't remember exactly. It must have been in the summertime or early fall of 50, or just before 50.
From the University of Iowa, you got your master's degree in
And
science.
then I did. Bob Nigro, his family were really involved in a lot of things. Carpenter. They sort of were they were the doctors for the shady people.
Mafia.
Yeah, and so I went down there at their invitation thinking that Bob Nigro's father, DM, would help me get a job, and he did. He got me a job as a carpenter with the Carpenters Union
Where?
in Kansas City.
Kansas City.
So you moved from Iowa City to Kansas City in 50.
Iowa City, right. And Tommy had just been born. So we had 5 children, and we were down there. And
How did you run into Nigros?
well, Betty.
Oh, Betty, that's right.
Yeah,
Betty was
But
Mom's
at
sister.
that time, they owned a hospital, they owned a clinic, they were the doctors for the underworld. So they were really doing real well.
Powerful.
D.M. Nigro had been, D.M. Nigro at that time was president of the Notre Dame Alumni Association.
Was he a medical doctor also?
Yeah. And he had been a trainer for Newt Rockney way back. So he had a lot of contacts. And but when I went with, people were trying to help me down there because if they felt they helped me, then Nigro would help them. And I went with this one man one day to, they had been bootleggers for years before that. And he took me by this guy, a fellow's house named Beans Marcellus, and took me in and introduced me to Beans' wife. And I said to her, "Where's your husband?" Well, he said he's in prison. But she said, "I think he's going to be pardoned soon." And President Truman pardoned me. Truman had been part of the group down there.
Part of what group?
Oh, politics, you know.
Truman was from Independence, Missouri, right?
Right.
So it's...
And I met Truman's brother at a banquet one night. He was there. But anyway,
You met Harry Truman's brother.
yeah. And some of the Pendergasts. The Pendergasts were the big politicians. And years later, I read in the Reader's Digest where this insurance company liquidated and gave most of the assets to Pendergast Sr. And he spent about $20,000 a day betting on the horses and things. And finally, they sent him away.
How long did you live in Kansas City?
1 year.
Why'd you leave there?
My job ran out there. They needed someone who could do something, I don't know, teach another subject that I wasn't, qualified for.
Well, I thought you were a carpenter there, but you're also a teacher?
Well, in the summer, yeah, I was went down there and started carpentering rather quickly.
Where did you teach and what did you teach there?
I taught health and biology and coached basketball.
Where?
Huh?
Where?
Shawnee Mission,
High school?
Kansas.
Is that high school?
Catholic high school.
What was the name of the school?
I think it was St. Mary's.
Isn't that where Kathy and Rob lived right after they got married?
Well, Kansas City was. And
Shawnee Mission. Shawnee Mission.
Is that right, Dad?
I guess.
Yeah.
So then, where'd you go after
At that
that, kid?
time, I didn't really know Rob.
Where did you go after that? After Kansas City, where did you move to?
Moved back to Quincy.
What for?
Grandpa had died and my mother was by herself and she wanted me back here.
What did you do for a living?
Started company building houses and other things.
Now, how many kids did you have at that time?
5.
Where'd you first live?
I bought a house at 708 Adams.
708 Adams.
Yeah.
Now that's where Mark was born, wasn't it? Was he born at 708 Adams?
I'm sure he would be, must have been.
So you bought that house. Do you remember for how much or about how much?
Like 7,000, something like that.
So it was big enough for all of you?
It was a 2-story house, yeah.
What was your house payment?
I don't remember.
And do you know how long you lived there? Was it a few years or?
I built a house at 1850 Hampshire and sold that other place.
I thought you taught Quincy College.
Well, that was sort of an agreement if I would teach this class who needed anatomy and kinesiology to be graduated, and I just agreed to do it.
Do you have any idea what year you completed the house at 1855? Is that what you said?
1850.
1850 Hampshire.
Well, we worked on it, quite consistently and moved into it. I don't know. I can't remember.
I was born there, and I was the first one, I think. Wasn't I, Mom, the first one born at 1850 Hampshire, or was
Who are you?
Ann born there?
Who are you?
I can't remember. Doesn't remember where we were born. This is sad.
That's Kevin talking.
So then you stayed in the construction business for how long?
Oh,
Too long.
too long, yeah. I got in the real estate business. Real estate,
Didn't you sell cars for a while?
yeah. Tried everything.
Real estate's where
Sold
you
insurance.
made all your money.
Well, I made more than I did. I've never made all my money.
Did Mom get in real estate first, or did you?
No.
You did?
She agreed to get her license so she could answer the phone for me, you know, when I was out selling.
So while you were selling real estate, did you stop carpentry altogether for a while?
Yeah.
And you formed Duke Curran Real Estate?
But that was in the early 60s. We skipped over about 10 years here.
Yeah, well,
I mean, we jumped through. Dad was a carpenter till mid-60s, then he got into the real estate business.
Is that when you cleaned all those, the cement off all the bricks?
you could well be right about that.
We didn't get into the real estate business until I was probably a 7th or 8th grader, and that would have been in 67 or 68. It could have been 60.
Can't really answer that.
Mom was in the cradle lady business probably till about 65 or 66. And you were still a carpenter all that time.
Those are things you have to talk to her about. Well,
Well, maybe we need to blend Mom and Dad together
can't verify it.
at some point.
Yeah. Hey, Dad, one time you said that you wasn't sure where the next meal was coming from, and you just went out and knocked door to door for odd jobs, told people, do you remember that? Can you tell us about
Most
that?
of the odd jobs were, well, you could say that, but when I was teaching in the summertime, I would go from door to door with one of the students knocking on doors about painting. And that was the only time I really did that. Although later on I used to do chimneys and stuff, and I'd look at a chimney. If it was bad, I'd talk to the people and bring it to their attention.
Was there ever a time where you money was so bad that you needed a job, or you wouldn't be able to, could feed the family, or
Yeah, it was tough.
was that when you had 13 children at that time?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Once we got them, we couldn't get rid of them.
Well, didn't the real estate market in Quincy kind of bomb out in the early 70s?
Well, no, it was 75, I got that job at the Veterans Home.
How'd you get that?
Through Michael.
What exactly was your title when you entered there?
Oh, they call it,
Director of
Activities.
Activities.
yeah,
That's what you started in?
yeah,
And is that what you did all the way through?
yeah.
And
You
Mike was working for Dan Walker. That's how Dad, Walker was the governor at that time. That's how Mike was able to have some influence.
Did you like that job?
Yeah. It's like a lot of things. You take them and people talk about money, and then you end up with not that much money, but you end up okay. But if it hadn't been political, I probably would have stayed there forever because I like the people and they like me. But I was always fighting with them.
Why were you fighting with them?
They were stealing the money from the members, and they were interfering with the program,
Is that why you kept getting suspended, didn't you, without pay or with pay or something?
with pay, yeah.
Okay, you guys want to take a break and
Yeah.
Yeah.
then we'll
That's good.
maybe
Ricky,
pick it up
You
tomorrow.
got my entry into the family yet? Is that my...
Kevin
I
thinks
wanted to put it in, and they voted against
We were
it.
going to avoid it.
To me, that's the main element of the whole story.
Are you going to
What's
play
that?
golf with us in the morning?
I probably will work.
You have to have
full-time.
shot under 100 before.
We decided to play a par 3 here, a little par 3 course, Rick.
I wish you could.
That's not
There's
challenging.
Rick eating again.
Not challenging enough for me.
Oh yeah, well, this is challenging.
Par 2 for me.
Putter and
Above the sink.
see. It's rolling. Today is, what, is it the 22nd?
22nd.
22nd of July, 1996. This is Barbara Lee Kern. And we all got together, well, a lot of us, 11 of the 13 kids got together for Dad's birthday, and this is a continuation of that. So, Mom, can you tell us a little bit about your, well, it's not us, I'm the only one here. Can you tell me about your family, maybe where you were born, and,
Okay, I was born in St. Joseph's Hospital in Bloomington, Illinois, McLean County, on October 17, 1922, which makes me 73 years old.
and how about your brothers and sisters and parents and grandparents?
My mother's name was Mary Agnes. They called her Mame. And my father's name was James Elmer Lee. They called him Jim.
Do you
And
know-
I was the youngest of 4 children. My oldest brother, James, was 12 years older than I am, and my next brother Ralph was 7 years older than I am, and my sister was Betty was 20 months older than I am. So I was also the youngest of all the grandchildren. So I was really the baby of the entire family.
What was Betty's birthday?
January 30th, I believe, 1920. I think that's right. 30th or 31st, I always get it mixed up.
Close enough. And what was your mother's maiden name?
Gleason, Gleason.
Do you know where she was born?
She was born in Bloomington, too.
Do you know her parents' names?
Yeah. Mary Moran was her mother's name. And Michael Gleason was her father's name.
So her mother's maiden name was Moran.
That's right.
And do you know Mary Moran's parents' names? You have.
I have it written down, but I can't
I
remember.
think that was the Bridget.
Yeah, there was.
Maybe that was Bridget Moran that I named
Could
Bridget
have
after.
been, yeah. Okay, there was McFadden's, and I can't recall all of them right now.
Then do you know anything about your dad's parents?
No,
Don't know
I
any
really don't.
about any relatives there. Never
No.
saw them.
I saw my grandmother a couple times. She was at my dad's funeral, but I never really saw her. She lived in the same town. It's when my dad married my mother, he just had to leave his whole family because she was Catholic and they didn't like Catholics. So we never saw any of them, ever. Except maybe I'd be walking down the street with my mother and she'd say, "Do you know who these ladies are?" And I'd say, "No." Well, she'd say, "It's your dad's sister," or something like that. But I really don't.
So you don't know any of their names or anything?
Mm-mm. I do have a clipping, that was left in the newspaper that listed their names and his mother's. But his mother was living when he died, and he had
And was
2 or
his
3
father
sisters.
living when he died?
I don't know
Don't
anything.
know.
Don't know anything. He was born in Hayworth, Illinois, which is just not. It's just maybe 20 miles south of Bloomington. So
Do you know how he and your mom met?
yeah, she was sitting on the porch, and he walked by our house because he lived in our neighborhood, and he worked for the railroad like most people did in those days that lived in our neighborhood, and that's how he met her, because she was often sitting on the porch and he walked by there.
Do you know what year they got married? Do you have any idea?
No, I don't. I've got it all written down somewhere, but I don't.
And what was your address when you were growing up?
916 North Lee.
So you lived on Lee Street.
Yeah.
And some of your relatives lived nearby?
Yeah, my aunt Imelda and my grandparents lived a couple. Let's see, there was our house on the corner, and then 2 houses, and then my grandparents' house.
And Imelda lived with them.
That was kind of the custom in those days. Somebody always stayed home and lived with the grandparents. So it was usually the last one left who didn't. The others got married and went off, and the last one stayed with the parents, the grandparents. That's usually the way it was.
Now, how many brothers and sisters did Granny Lee have?
She had 3 sisters. Helen was the youngest. Aunt Wynn was the oldest. And then my mother, and then Imelda.
And Aunt Wynn, is that the one you talked about being in Chicago?
Yeah.
Who did she marry? And
She married
did
Jim Knight, that was spelled Knight, and she had one daughter, Mary Jane, that I hope to visit when I go up to Chicago this next week. I hope to go see Mary Jane. And 3 sons, Jim and Chuck and John. Yeah, Jim and Chuck and John. Yeah. John just died a few weeks ago. I mean, several months ago.
Your cousin, John.
Yeah, John Edward.
And then Aunt Wynn and what was her husband's name?
Jim.
Jim. Did they live in Chicago for a long time?
Always lived in Chicago. At 2915 East 78th Street. And I can just remember that number because they lived there so long. And their telephone number was Regent 0247.
Did you see them much?
Lot. We went, my mother had a pass on the railroad, and the kids all had passes on the railroad, so it didn't cost her anything to take us kids. It would be Betty and me, or often it was me, and take me up to Chicago, and Aunt Wynn would meet us, and we'd go out and spend a lot of time with her house, and it was an apartment, great big apartment building, like nothing there would be like that in Bloomington. It was a very, very nice apartment, something that you wouldn't see in Bloomington. It had a great big vestibule and elevators and I don't know, all kinds of security and stuff. It was just very, very nice. It was close to the beach.
And those cousins were older than you were. But there were some of them still home when you
They were all home.
And then, so that was Aunt Wynn, and then your mother, and then your mother was second, did you say?
She was the second girl. I don't know where the boys were. She had a brother, Jim. There are a lot of Jims in our family. They're everywhere. She had a brother, Jim, who died of they thought it was a football injury. But I've often thought since, I bet it wasn't a football, it was a kidney. They said that his kidneys were injured in this football game. But I don't think so. I think there was probably a weakness in the kidneys, and they just didn't realize that, they didn't have the knowledge then about all that. So I think that's a weak strain in our family. He died at 17.
In Bloomington? And did she have another brother?
Yeah, Uncle Jack. Yeah, Uncle Jack, we called him Good John. We didn't call him that to his face, but behind his back we always called him Good John.
Why?
Well, it was just our way of kind of, well, he was a bachelor, and he would often come back to Bloomington and on long visits. He was a very high-powered salesman out in the East somewhere. So he'd come back home, and it was like some character out of a movie or something. He had to be treated, like he was royalty or something. And he was really, really nice, But when we were little, we just thought he was a little strange. He was, coming from New York. And I think during the Depression, when things really got rough for many, many people, they came home. That's just the way it was. People came from all over the world speaking. Go ahead, you want to answer the phone? Or?
What was who was the oldest? How did it go all the way down?
Aunt Wynn was the oldest.
Aunt Wynn,
And then I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Maybe my mother was the second oldest, or Uncle Jim or Uncle Jack. I'm not sure. There were 2 boys and 4 girls, and they always said that my grandmother, we called Mom, had some miscarriages, but I don't know anything.
So whatever happened to Jack?
He died. Yeah.
Was he very old when he died?
Uncle Jack. Yeah, he went to. I think he was he was a veteran. He had been in the Navy, And then I think he went up to, well, he spent most of his time living with Aunt Wynn up in Chicago. And then he died in a veterans hospital up there. But Annie's over trying to turn off the radio.
Okay, so he died in a veterans hospital.
Heinz Hospital, I think, up in Chicago.
And then, how about Imelda? She never got married.
Oh yeah, she got married. She married Eddie Burns, who was my godfather. That was B-Y-R-N-E, Eddie Burns.
And then, did they have any children?
No, she got married late in life. I don't know how old she was when she got married. I'd say maybe around 50 or so, I don't know. And Eddie was quite a bit older than she was when they got married. But they had gone together when they were very young. And then Melda, of course, ended up staying home taking care of her parents, and I don't know what Eddie did.
And then when she got married, were her parents
Dead.
deceased?
They had both died. And then when they had both died, then she married Eddie. And then they bought a very nice house a few doors down from my grandparents' house. And it was really very nice. She had a lot of beautiful, beautiful things.
And then what happened to them?
Well, I don't know what happened to Imelda. This was when, I was married and gone. She had some sort of mental problems. I wasn't there to see what was going on. All I know is that when I'd go back, she was just a changed person. She had those electric shock treatments, and she hated those. And she was always the most carefree, the most fun-loving of it, of the whole family. She was a beautiful, beautiful lady. But I don't know. I think it probably was a depression of some sort. And in those days, that's what they did. They had those mental shock treatments. They'd strap them down and, send the electricity through their body, and it only made her worse, much worse. And she hated it. And then she'd have to go back and have more, which was,
And she was still married then? Her husband was still alive?
Oh, yeah. Eddie was very much alive, yeah. So then Aunt Wynn came down to visit, and Aunt Wynn was staying with her. And one day Aunt Wynn got up, and Melda had jumped in the well in the backyard and committed suicide. So she Eddie, her husband, cried for 3 weeks. Never stopped crying for 3 weeks, night and day. You can believe that, or you don't have to believe it. But I saw it with my own eyes. He sat at the kitchen table. He wouldn't eat. He wouldn't sleep. And he died 3 weeks later.
Of what?
They said a broken heart. That's what the doctor said. If, I don't know.
Goodness. And,
So-
do we miss anybody? Who else? Is that it? Oh, Helen.
Helen. That's a story and a half. What do you want to know?
Well, Helen had how many children? Just two? Just Margaret?
No, she had 4 children.
Oh, that's right.
And she left home.
Who was her husband?
Her husband was John Hackett. One interesting thing I think about Helen was that she got married very young. Well, I think they got married very young in those days. Like, I think my mother was very young, like 18 or 19. And that's how old I think my dad was. But Helen married Jack Hackett. They called him Pucker. That was his nickname. And they were both like 18. Well, then Helen they were both the same size. And then Helen had this growing spell, spree or whatever, spurt. And she grew several inches taller than he was. So she had Margaret and Jack were born then. And then I don't know much about Billy and Norma Jean, but they were Helen's children, and she brought all of her children home to my grandparents' house. And these were the days of the Depression. People really didn't have, enough to eat for themselves, much less 4 children coming. So and that's when Uncle Jack was visiting there, staying there. We called Good John, and he would not allow 4 children to come. He let Margaret and Jack stay, but he said the other 2 had to go to an orphanage. So Billy and Norma Jean were taken to the orphanage in Peoria. That's the last I saw of them. It would be just like a couple of your kids were just taken away one day and you never saw them again.
So how old were the kids then? Were they preschool and grade school age?
Mm-hmm.
They were all little?
Mm-hmm.
Were they pretty close together?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I remember playing with Norma Jean. So I remember one time she broke my little, I had a little desk that folded up, and it had a little paper thing on a roller that you turn, and she just stuck her hand through it and broke it. I remember that.
So how old do you think they might have been? 3 and 4 when they...
They were probably just a couple years younger than we were, but I don't know. I think Norma Jean, they were probably a year apart or so, and I think Norma Jean was maybe 2 or 3 years littler than we were.
So did Margaret and Jack ever find them or look
No.
for them?
Well, Margaret would talk about them, and Helen just spent there, many, many years after. Then she left. She was gone. She left those children there, and then she left Bloomington, and she was gone for all the years that Margaret and Jack were growing up.
Where was Margaret's father?
He was in the Army.
Did they get divorced, or
I guess they did.
So he was in the Army, and she left Helen. So did Helen come back to visit sometime?
Not for a long, long time. Margaret and Jack, they never saw their mother or their father. I remember Margaret when her father came home the first time she ever saw him. He came to our house, and he was in his Army uniform. Margaret had never seen him before. So, or Jack either.
So the grandparents raised them their whole childhood.
And Imelda especially. Grandparents were quite elderly, they really were not.
And Margaret was about your age or a year younger?
We were the same age. She was 5 weeks older than I was. So when the day I was born, Helen pushed Margaret in a buggy out to see me and my mother.
So you and Margaret were good friends from infancy. And then Jack was Jack older or younger?
He was 2 years older. He was like Betty's age.
And then, so you grew up right down the street from her, a couple doors down?
Yeah.
All through grade school and high school? What grade school and high school did
Went
you
to
go
Trinity Grade School and Trinity High School.
That was co-ed?
Oh, yeah.
It was Catholic
Yes.
school.
Uh-huh.
And you went to Trinity Church then, probably.
Of course, everybody walked everywhere in those days.
Now, a big thing in your life is your father's death when you were how old?
10.
10 years
July
old.
17, 1933. He died of rabies. Do you have anything specific you want to know about that?
Well, you said he was bitten, and then they got the dog and had the dog checked, and the dog did have rabies.
Yeah, he was an engineer on the railroad.
What was the name of the railroad?
Chicago and Alton. CNA was referred to. That went out of existence, I don't know what year, but it did. It was a big railroad between Chicago and St. Louis.
So he was a strong man, and he used to shovel coal at one point.
He was a fireman for many, many, many years on the railroad. And then he worked his way up to engineer, which was really, even, today, those were really good paying jobs.
So then
Still are.
He died July 17th. When did the dog bite him? Like
In May,
June?
sometime in May.
And he went, and you said he got some shots in the abdomen.
He had 14 shots, rabies shots. And after he died, they said he should have had 21 because it was so close to the brain. and he was shut the door. He was 6'2" and weighed 210 pounds. And everybody said that he didn't have an ounce of fat on him. I heard that all my life. He was 6'2", weighed 210, and didn't have an ounce of fat on him. But he had been promoted to engineer, and but he had been a fireman for a long time. So he fired the coal in the train that would take the train from Chicago to St. Louis. That's a lot of coal to fire. So I think all firemen were very, very strong people. And then they got promoted to engineer, and that's what my dad was an engineer when he died.
So he took himself down to the hospital. He realized he was dying.
Well, he couldn't swallow water. I think he probably knew he had rabies. But he was very, very uncomfortable. No, he drove himself to the hospital. And James went with him. But I remember seeing my dad drive out the driveway.
So you were 10 and James was 22 then?
21.
21. And
Look,
he
I guess my birthday was coming up soon.
And so where did he go? Did he go to the hospital? Or?
He went and he registered himself in, checked himself in. And then I think, I don't know when it was, that was on a Sunday morning. And then sometime they put him in the...
Was it the jail? Or?
Wild.
Mm-hmm. And he died on July 17th. Mm-hmm. And then, what do you remember about him when he was alive? What was he like? What was his personality
I don't remember. Aaron, shut the door, please, because it's too much hot air. I don't remember. I really don't remember much about him at all, because he was gone, and he
gone out on the railroad.
Yeah, it's amazing that I don't remember. I just remember a little bit about him. Not. So I often think of people with children 10 years old. If anything happened, they're not going to remember that much, because I didn't remember that much. Like when I was 16 or 17, my mother would say, "Do you remember that?" And I'd say, "No, I just didn't."
So in that time, James, was he in college? How did your father's death affect your family? And how was it? How did your
James
mom?
was a junior at St. Vitus College, and then he couldn't go back because he had to stay home and help support the family.
And what was Ralph doing?
Ralph was a senior in high school. He had just graduated from high school. He was 17.
So did he go in the service?
Well, no. He was all set to go to college. I think he was really planning to go to Georgetown University, is where he really wanted to go. And if my dad had lived there, he would have gone there.
And then Betty was just maybe 12, 11 or 12. And then what did your mom do? Had your mom stayed home before that and then had to go to work after?
Yes, she had never worked. She'd always stay home. So she didn't go to work. It wasn't, there weren't very many women that worked in those days, unless they were widows or teachers or something. Women just were not.
What year did you say he died?
33. There were. But most women that I knew, they were housewives or mothers, and most of them were home. So my mother just never had worked, so she didn't go to work for 2 years, but then she got a job at a department store, Rowland, W.H. Rowland.
Is that still around in Bloomington?
Well, I don't know that it's still in Bloomington, but there is a W.H. Rowland department store in Springfield. It's a very, very, very nice department store. She sold coats, fur coats mostly.
What was your mom like? What was your home like?
She was very hardworking. She did a lot, very neat. Anne always say you remind me a lot of my mother because she's very neat. She never kept anything. If it wasn't, you didn't use it, you just got rid of it. She just was always busy, always working. She really liked a clean house, and but I don't know, she was a very, very good mother. What do you...
Well, she was pretty young when he died. How old was your mom?
She was like 41 or 42, I guess. Yeah. He was... Is that right? Yeah, I think my dad was 43 when he died, and I think she was a couple years younger than he was. So, but I remember afterwards, she had a really...
She had a tough time. When you turn off.
To handle it. You didn't have the experience, you didn't have the background. You see kids 18 years old now running a big gas station. It was one of the busiest gas stations there. It still is. It's still a great gas station. It's right across from Trinity Church.
When did Ralph marry Martha? Did they get married after you?
They got married, yeah, after the war. Oh yeah, yeah.
After you?
Oh yeah, yeah. Martha. Matter of fact, Duke and I were home. It was after the war, I believe. Yeah. Because Martha was over at our house and visiting, and Ralph came home. He was in his uniform, and we were all going out one night, and Martha and Ralph just went along with us. And I remember it was the first night we went down to Eddie Burns' tavern, and Martha and Ralph sat across from Duke and me that first night. It was the first night they ever went out together, and then Ralph asked her for a date the next night, and I think they had a date every night then after that. And then they ended up and married her.
So Ralph was 7 years older than you?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? So you were married at age 21, I think.
22.
22. You got married at 29. Or maybe a little later, because he got married after you.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us about his children?
Debbie was the first one. And
David.
yeah, David was the second one. And Debbie was born in November sometime. I just remember that, I think.
And they were both adopted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Did they adopt them as babies?
Yeah, right as infants, like Debbie was a brand new baby. They're just very, just infants. They were days old. I can't remember David's birthday, but I remember Debbie's was around November something.
And then Uncle Jim married Dorothea.
Mm-hmm.
What was her maiden name?
Conklin, Conklin. Kind of interesting thing about that, my mother took me to the Y when I was 5 years old. She insisted that all of us learn to swim when we were little because she had this horrible fear of the water, and she didn't want us to have that. So she took me to the Y, and Dorothea was the lifeguard. And my mother would sit up on the balcony and watch, me when I was having swimming lessons, and I would go back into this little area where Dorothea would sit. It was like a little private area where the lifeguards went, and like a little office. And Dorothea used to hold me on her lap and sit on my knees. And I can remember she said to me one time, "You shouldn't bite your fingernails." Remember that?
So you knew her before?
I knew her before James did. Yeah. So when he brought her home to the house, I already knew her.
Did he bring her home?
When he started.
After your dad died?
No, she met my dad. She knew my dad, but I don't think they were they weren't engaged or anything when he died.
Then what were her kids' names or their children, James and Dorothy?
James and Dorothea's children were Pat, Patricia Ann, and then Jane. I can't remember Jane's
Two
name.
girls.
He also had one boy. He had a little boy born in there. His name was Michael, and he was born. He's between Jane and Pat, but he died after he, was. He was.
You mean right after birth?
Yeah, he died. He was a beautiful baby, and he was doing very well. And for some strange reason, I never did hear the explanation of it. I don't know that there was.
Baby, maybe?
What?
Like a sudden infant death syndrome?
I don't know. He was in the hospital when the baby died. He was like 2 or 3 days old, and they never. As far as I know, they never knew. I'll have to ask Pat or Mary or Jane about that if they ever really knew. But I remember the mother picked out the clothes for the the little outfit for the casket and the funeral. It was really sad. So they were going to have would have been Pat and Mike. I remember. So that was one reason. When my Jim was born, I didn't name Jim Pat because it would have been too well. Would have been yeah. James, I wouldn't have done that to James.
Then tell us what life was like when you were little and how much things cost and about your refrigerator.
Okay, we had an ice box in the basement, and it was at the bottom of the stairs, and there was it drained into, there was a hose underneath, and the water drained into a floor drain, and the iceman would bring the ice, and that's where my dad's medicine was kept. The what do you call it? For his rabies. What was that?
Not antibiotics.
No.
Some injections.
Yeah.
Were kept in the ice.
The
box.
Pasteur treatment was called. Yeah. So whatever that was, I don't know. But that's where the medicine was. And that was another thing they said, that maybe that refrigeration wasn't constant enough, because the ice would melt, and then icemen would come of certain days and.
He'd come certain days of the week.
The
Iceman. You just get another block of ice.
Yeah.
Now you had electricity, but people didn't have electric refrigerators.
No, not for a long, long time. I think the first one was.
After you were married, you.
Oh yeah. But when I was a little girl, we had a refrigerator No, it was after my dad died that we got the refrigerator that was. See, and we still called it an ice box. Everybody put it in the ice box. So that was.
And they didn't have a top freezer and then a bottom.
They look very much
refrigerator?
like what they look like today.
So they came right out with freezers
Yeah,
on top.
yeah, But they weren't self-defrosting, and we did move our ice box from the basement upstairs, but it always had a pan of water under it, had a basin under it, and if you'd forget to empty that, you'd have water all over the floor.
And then what else was in your house?
Well, we had.
Did anybody, when you were a little girl, have outhouses? Or did
I'm sure there
everybody-
were. Yeah, I'm sure there were. I'm sure there were.
But everybody you knew had indoor plumbing.
Yeah, but I'm sure, especially in the rural areas, But I'm sure that in Bloomington at that time, there were a lot of people in certain parts of town that did not have indoor plumbing the way that.
Did you have
My mother didn't have any indoor plumbing, when she was little.
Did you have a shower or a bathtub?
We had a bathtub, but we had no hot water. So we had to, except in the winter time when the furnace was on, there was a very small water heater. It was, a thing of water. It was probably about like that, this big around. And probably really enough for maybe 1 or 2 baths, maybe at the most. But then in the spring and the summer and the fall, when the furnace wasn't on, then there wasn't any hot water. So if you wanted to take a bath, you had to go into the kitchen and heat some water and carry it into the bathroom. Just.
And the bath was on the first floor?
We only had 1 floor.
And of course there wasn't any air conditioning at that
No,
time.
No.
And did you have radiators, steam heat, or did
No,
you
we
have
had forced air. We had registers.
mhm,
And, yeah.
hot air came out?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And what did you do for fun growing up? Did you roller skate or go to movies or read? What did you like to do? Did you play with dolls?
Well, when I was little, of course, I played with dolls a lot. And I'd have them scattered all over the floor. And I remember when I would get mad at my dolls for some reason or other, I'd scold them, and I'd put them out in the milk box. That was their punishment if they were bad dolls. I'd put them out in the milk box.
Did you play with Margaret every day?
Every day. Yeah. She was always around.
And then what else do you guys
We
went to the
played a
movies?
lot with paper dolls, you know. We played a lot Jacks, and we had hopscotch, and we played with ropes, and we we'd jump rope, and there was just a big gang of us that lived in the neighborhood. And one of the things that we did was we'd take our plate of food. I think we all must have eaten around 5 or 5:30 backyard, and we'd sit and eat our supper. That was we used to have a lot of fun doing that.
So now, did you hear about much crime or anything growing up?
No, I don't
Did
think.
you guys got to just go from each other's houses and
Oh yeah. Even, when we were little, we'd play out under. I lived in the corner, and we'd play out under the street light, and we'd play kick the picket. That was, whether you know how to play kick the picket. We put 2 bricks down side by side, and then we'd put a stick across that, and it was kind of like baseball. You'd kick the picket, and then you'd run. Somebody'd try to catch the stick. So we didn't even buy balls, Everybody just kind of made their own thing, and you got to go out after supper, and you could play until it got dark, and then we had to go in.
what about movies? I remember you said movies were cheap.
Oh yeah.
How much did it cost?
Well, when we were little, Margaret and I used to each get, I got a dime and a nickel from my mother to go to the show. And of course, Margaret, she didn't have that, so we would always stop at Grace Cullen, who was a relative of Margaret's father. I don't know how, but I think she was Margaret's father's cousin. She was a real nice lady. She was a secretary somewhere. She lived at home and worked, and she had several brothers. And we'd go up there on Sunday morning, around noon, maybe 11:30 or so, and we'd stop into Grace's house, and Grace would give Margaret a dime and a nickel to go to the movies.
Kids are in the creek. They're having an awful good time.
Or,
Where was your grandfather?
we can talk about that. We can talk about the trip to Ireland, and then I'll tell you about my grandfather.
All right, you better kind
Hurry up.
Accelerate.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
So you had other jobs. Where'd you meet Dad, and how old?
Well, one thing, I did go to work at State Farm Insurance, and I was a typist. I typed policies there. I didn't like State Farm. It was just felt like it was cattle. You went up on this elevator and you sat there and you typed all day, which was what I had done at Meadows, but that was, there were hundreds of us in a room, all typing policies. So then I had a chance to go to work at Rogers Hotel, and I really liked that. I was a desk clerk, and my good friend Betty King, who was Miss Illinois, by the way, she worked there, so I just liked what you did. You were dealing with the public. It was much more interesting than sitting there all day in a straight chair just typing all those policies. I had the state of Georgia, I believe. And so I went to work there. And how did I meet your dad? Betty King, who was my good friend, was her uncle was coming to Quincy with the V5 program. He was a cadet. And so we went out to Neersteimer's drugstore. We were at Neersteimer's drugstore one time. It was place where you went and you'd go back and sit in booths and get Cokes and stuff. And some cadets came in and her uncle was there. I can't remember his name, it's terrible. But then I think your dad must have seen me or something, and or I met him there. Yeah, I met him there. Yeah, at Neersteimer's. But then I met him there, and then he called me for a date. And my date, I met him at Walgreens after I got off work. And I had, no, that's not right. That's not right.
Did you go on a double date?
Yeah, I had a date with, I didn't think that was right. I had a date with Larry O'Brien that I had met at Neersteimer's with Betty King. That's it. And so we met at Walgreen Doug's store after I got off work, which must have been in the early evening or something, like 6 o'clock or something, because I'd either worked at 6 or I'd worked till 10. And then I double dated with your dad. He had a date with Mary Morrissey, who was a very, very pretty girl. She really was. She had long, black, beautiful hair. And she's a very wealthy girl. And so then we all went out, and then your dad called me for a date. That's what it was.
How did Larry and Mary feel about it?
I don't know.
Did they get
But
married?
Larry was a very, very good friend of your dad's. He was a Navy pilot, trained to be a Navy pilot too. And he died. He was killed in training. He was really a nice guy. Very, very nice guy. He was quite a bit taller than your dad, but not a lot. There weren't many tall pilots. I think there was an upper limit on height. They couldn't be over such and such a height. So there was, the pilots had to be able to fit in those cockpits.
So did you date very long?
I can't recall exactly. I think we met in July, and then I think we were married a year in the following November, a year after, so it was like a year and a half.
November what?
18th, 1944.
Dad thinks it's 19, and so I'm proof on here.
What?
Dad thinks you were married on the 19th.
No, November 18th, 1944. I always say met in 43, married in 44. Michael was born in 45.
Now, you had 13 children, obviously. Were you planning right away to have so many kids?
Yeah, I always did. I think I don't know, I always did want a big family, and I always wanted a lot of boys. I always thought I'd like maybe...
That makes me feel bad, Mom.
Well, no, I always thought I wanted like 10 or 12 boys and maybe one girl. I always kind of thought that's the way it would be. A lot of boys, but I did want a girl. So, but that was the way it was.
And can you remember the different cities you lived in and who
Yeah.
was born where?
Well, yeah, Michael was born in Vero Beach. No, we lived in Vero Beach. He was born in Fort Pierce, which is in St. Lucie County.
That's when you were living in Vero Beach.
Yeah. We lived at 1915 17th Avenue in Vero Beach, in an apartment house.
And then
But the
Jim-
first place we lived was in we moved to, can't recall the first place.
And
But then we
Jim,
moved to, I'll think about it in a minute.
Did you move to another town and have Jim somewhere else?
No, then when the war was over, we came back to Bloomington, and we stayed with my mother until Duke could go back to school.
So you
He was in football. He was going back to play football, and he had to go back to go to practice, training. So he left Bloomington in like August or something to go back for training.
You
And then I
there
stayed
with
with Michael. And then Jimmy was born in September. And
In Bloomington while you lived at your mom's. So Jimmy was born in Bloomington.
yeah. And during that whole, I was in the hospital the whole week. I had a beautiful room. I had 2 windows. I had cross ventilation. I was in the corner. It was really beautiful, but nobody ever saw it because they wouldn't allow any visitors. Even my mother couldn't come. And Margaret would drop off a little present every day at 5 o'clock. But so I was.
She couldn't come in.
She couldn't
just
come
dropped it
in.
off with the
And
nurse.
since my husband wasn't there, yeah, she would drop it off downstairs, and somebody would bring it up to me. But
So you didn't get to see Mike while you were in the hospital? You just
No.
had Jim.
no. Mm-mm. And when Michael was born, of course, it didn't cost anything. That was Navy Hospital, and it was free. Everything was free. Then when Jim was born, it seemed to me that it cost $100 for everything, I think. And then we moved over to the University of Iowa. By the way, when we moved from Bloomington to Iowa City, my brother James came over and packed all my worldly possessions in that car and on the top of the car. And Gil Brown and Margaret drove me over, Michael and me over. And so all my stuff was tied on the top or in the
From Bloomington
to Iowa City. And Jimmy was born. So there was 2. There was Jimmy and Mike and Margaret and Gil drove us over. And on the way over there,
I've heard this story before.
the things blew off the top of the rack of the car, and I just looked back out of the window, and all my earthly possessions were scattered all over the highway. I'm sure there were other things in the car, but that's the way I looked at it. There was other stuff there too, but it was mostly the baby bed. So I was going over to this place, and it was just like a village we lived in, and it was very small. It was very much like what you'd see in we had no running water. We had no the bathroom was right. We had to walk down to take a shower, and when it was very, very cold. I remember walking down there, and I'd get in this little bathhouse. It was a bathhouse, and I'd sit there. You had to sit there and wait your turn. It was so cold. And then you take your shower, and then you go back to your little whatever it was.
And that was Iowa City when Dad was in school.
When he went back to...
Get his master's.
No. He was junior then. He was just a junior, yeah. So, and then... That was really some little place. And then we moved to a Finkbein it was called. It was student housing that they were building. And before that we lived in a Quonset hut that was just round, like shape of an igloo, And then, but we were very, very fortunate. Only the really lucky ones got those places to live. It doesn't sound very good, but you had a place to live, and it was after the war, and all the men were coming back to school on the GI Bill, and the reason your dad got those places is because he was a football player, and they wanted him to have a place to live, and that was all there was. It may sound kind of horrible, but it was fine. It was it's the way everybody. We were all living the same way. So, but I remember in that first place that we went, we had no plumbing at all, and that we had a bucket under the sink, and the water had to be taken and dumped.
How'd you do diapers?
By hand.
In the bucket.
Yeah, I just washed everything by. I think we must have had a toilet in there. I think there were toilets in that. I can't remember. Must have been. But the diapers, you just flushed them out and washed them by hand. That's why I did all the diapers.
So then, Jimmy was born there. What about Kathy and Sally?
They were born in Iowa City. Kathy, Sally, and Tommy were all 3 born in Iowa City.
So by the time he graduated, you have 5 children.
That's right.
In Iowa City.
Yeah.
In that igloo. Or
No, that's when we got those 2. We went we didn't live in either one of those places very long because they were building the fig vine. So then we moved to fig vine, and that was really nice. I mean, for those days, under the circumstances it was. And we had we had 2 bedrooms, I think, maybe 3. No, just 2 bedrooms, yeah. And the rent and the utilities and everything was $35 a month. So that's all it cost.
And then you moved to Quincy.
Yeah, well then we moved to, your dad
Kansas
got a
City.
job in Kansas City.
So was anybody born in Kansas City?
Nobody was born in Kansas City.
Then
Then we moved to Quincy.
Do you remember the address?
In Kansas City, no?
No, in Quincy.
Yeah, the first address was 708 Adams, and when I got here, Nana had already picked out the house. And your dad had come up, and they had bought a house, so I just...
Did you like it?
Oh, it was all right,
Was on the corner.
It was in the middle of the block, right across from St. Mary's Church.
So you
Okay.
remember St. Mary's Parish in the beginning. And
Father
then-
Lee was our assistant pastor then, and he would come over and visit very often. He was really, really nice.
So then Mark was born maybe at that house?
Yeah, that's right.
He was born there. And that you bought that house, but you didn't live there that long.
No, we didn't. I don't
'Cause
think
Dad
your
built.
dad. Yeah, your dad was building, and he just decided we ought to build a house. But it was fine,
Was that house that Irvine's house that he built then on Hampshire Street? Is that the place
Yeah,
we
that
went?
John Irvine bought. Yeah.
So then I may have been born in that house. Or Kevin.
Yeah.
Boyd.
No, you weren't, because I remember when we were renting that house over on Kentucky, you were born. I think that's where we lived when you were born. Yeah, 'cause I remember I have a picture of you out in the buggy in that house.
So you moved from 708
Adams.
Adams, you sold it, and then while you were waiting to build,
We rented a
Rented.
house at 1001 Kentucky, and I think that's where you were born.
and then you didn't live there very long,
So the house was finished.
and then Kevin was
Yeah.
born. Well, do you remember the address on Hampshire Street?
1850. We bought that house at 708 Adams, and the man heard we wanted it was going to be for sale. The man next door bought it, so he wanted it right away, which made it kind of hard,
So then I was born at, what did you call it?
1001 in Kentucky.
1001 Kentucky. Then you went to 1850 Hampshire. Kevin was born there, and maybe Chris
I think so.
and Greg, maybe, or then we go to State Street after that, or Grove. No, State. I was in kindergarten, so Grove had to be next.
Yeah.
A big house on Grove Street. Whoops.
Yeah.
Grove Street was next. And then State, was that about 18th and State or something? No, it's
2101 State, I believe it was.
because that was Adam's school over there.
Yeah.
The kids went to. I was in kindergarten there.
That's where Kevin went to kindergarten.
And then so then you went to St. Peter's, not at Kentucky. Kentucky wouldn't have been.
Oh, yeah, when we bought the house, built the house on Hampshire Street, then everybody went to Kentucky, because for that, it was really our address.
Went to St. Peter's.
Yeah.
And then on State Street they went to St. Peter's, or State Street they went to Adams.
State Street went to St. Peter's.
Well, did they not have a kindergarten there? Because you sent me to Adams.
No, they didn't have kindergarten. In a lot of the Catholic schools, they didn't have kindergartens in those days.
So, was anybody born at Grove Street?
Yeah, I know, maybe Greg and Pat. I know Patrick was born there.
And then
And maybe Greg Pat. Greg and Pat for sure. And Peter. No, and
Well, after State was the house on Hampshire. Was it 1622 Hampshire? Some of the kids were
Yeah.
born there, weren't they?
must have been, but I remember Doug was born. I remember when we lived on State Street is when he had that like, oh, I used to remember the name of that. But it was a really bad, no, it was a very, very, very bad cold. Like, what do you call that? A lot of congestion in here. What is that?
Bronchitis?
Bronchitis. He had bronchiolitis. It was a little different than bronchitis. So we put him in the hospital, and Kathy and Sally were watching him one afternoon, and he had this kind of a cold, but they fed him a lot of grapes. And I always thought that they didn't probably wash those grapes well enough, and he just broke out in this terrible rash. And it was right after that, like they had been watching him, and then a day or so later, I put him in the hospital, and he had this awful rash and this lot of congestion. But I always thought this rash was because they fed him grapes, and he really hadn't had that grapes like that before.
Wasn't he the one that had to have a stomach pump because he ate too many aspirin?
Yeah, he climbed up in the kitchen. He climbed up the cabinet in the bathroom, moved a chair over to the cabinet, stood on the sink, and got up in the medicine cabinet.
Now that was on Hampshire Street.
Yeah,
I don't know the address. Was that 1622?
1622.
Okay. And then maybe Pete was born in that last house, 1622?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. That's right.
And that's where then you had all 13 kids at one
That's
time.
right.
Now we lived there for, let's see, probably 3 or 4 years at least. Now I went to kindergarten.
Pat went to
when we
kindergarten
were
there.
8th Street, and then I went to 1st and 2nd grade in St. Peter's. So when I was in 1st and 2nd, we lived at 1622. And then 3rd grade, when I was in 3rd grade, I think we bought 405 South 12th. So you owned 3 houses and you rented the other ones.
Yeah, that's right.
And do you remember, I just wanted to ask you a little bit about the health problems, the genital urinary stuff, because Aunt Helen had some problems, and Jim and Pat and I, and do you remember who all had kidney or bladder problems? Your one uncle that died
Yeah.
young.
I think my Aunt Helen, too, she had cancer of the kidneys.
Is that why she died?
Yeah, and then it metastasized and went. Oh, yeah, I think that's what.
She was older when she died, right?
Yeah, she was probably. I don't know, Greg knew her. He was over at the Illinois State University, so I don't know exactly what year she died, but I think she was like 78 or 79 or something.
So Aunt Helen, did anybody else